Hello, War of the Visions fans. I'm Jackie Fox, and today we're going to be talking about how units have performed in the guild battle over the last couple of months, and also I'm going to compare that to my predictions from about 2 months ago, which was the last time I did one of these videos. And in that video, I predicted that a number of units were going to do better as they would find partners with newer units. One of those units that was on the way down in that video was Bradley, and that was definitely a good prediction as he was one of the biggest winners out of this. So let's look at the data generally first and then get into specifics. Our new arrivals are Ashen Mont, who has about a 16% share of either offense or defense on average, as well as an average ranking of third place at third most used unit. Cloud Advent Children, this is going to be 14% share on average with a fourth place ranking. And then Sephiroth of Advent Children, this is going to be a 7% share and 7th place ranking, although I do expect this one to shoot up past maybe even Ashen Mont as well, because he's definitely a character that is way newer compared to those other two. You can no longer pull for Ashen Mont, so his numbers aren't likely to go up too much. There are probably people slow building him that will unveil him over time. Maybe the same is true for Cloud. I think a lot of people got Cloud, and I think a lot of the new player bonuses for Cloud were super huge. So, like, I pulled on my new player banner account that I basically only did new player pulls and free pulls on. I barely even spent Viz on it. I pulled Cloud twice for about 10k. I actually pulled a free Cloud in addition to the Cloud that I spent 10k on. So I think a lot of new players probably have Advent Children Cloud as well. But I think a lot of people are going to be getting the Sephiroth for Advent Children. Very popular unit. I just don't think he's built up enough to be seen in the data like he will be in a couple of months. Well, not even a couple of months, but like a couple of weeks. I really expect him to jump up in these numbers pretty quickly. In terms of units that already existed that are big winners from this data, there's only a few, and basically they're units that pair best with the units that I just talked about. That would be June the Spring Celestial, who got a 22% bump in total dominance, 11% on average between the two formats, and rose 4 total rankings between the two. In terms of percentage gain, this is the largest number that we're going to see. June the Spring Celestial continue to do amazingly well, and she is the strongest general pull unit, so people are going to continue to pull her, continue to build her. She's going to be easy to build. It's just a very easy unit to build up in this higher power tier, and the only one currently until we get Gilgamesh and later Luciel. Although, I don't know. I haven't really looked at Luciel yet, but I have some reservations there. She's not actually a god, so who knows how powerful she will end up being. But the next big winner was Bradley. While Bradley only saw a 4% bump in usage, basically a couple of people who had previously used Bradley started using him again. As nobody can still pull this unit. He is limited and probably ain't coming back for a while. He did gain 18 places, coming from damn near the bottom 20 in most of these, up into the top 10. So doing really well there, Bradley. Big ups teaming up with the Ashen Mont teams. And considering that Ashen Mont is the most used of these new units, obviously, big bumps there. And then A2, while A2 didn't really have any more ranks to gain, A2 is second to Helena in the previous data and is now second to June the Spring Celestial. She didn't lose any ranks, and that's not a thing that really happened to many people. She didn't gain any ranks, but she gained 4% usage, which means I guess more people are getting her online, in that there's maybe a lot of people that were slow building her and that people are still excited to slow build her. We're still seeing hype for this unit even now. And she has a bunch of great partners to play with, including Joom and Cloud, so that's just really a good combination. She also plays well with the old Cloud, if you're one of those people, and believe me, there's a lot of them in this data, so there are those people out there. And then our final winner is Summer Glaciella. Summer Glaciela's usage only increased by 1%, because she was a limited unit. Maybe we'll see her again for the summer collaboration. Maybe we'll see a lot of people pull her then. I have seen some hype for her, and usually you don't see hype for rerun units like that, and I think it's kind of justified. So maybe we'll see more Summer Glaciella when the summer event reruns, but she did gain 3 places, so she is being used enough to bump up her stats. I've only named 7 units so far, so this is basically everybody else. We're going to start with the least of the losers first, and there's an interesting similarity in a lot of these units. They're just fan favorites and protagonists. We have Lightning losing 1%, but no ranking. She only previously ranked on offense in 20th, and she still does. So 5% of people used her before, 4% of people use her now. She didn't have much to lose, and she didn't lose much of it. Cloud, also original Cloud, not Advent Children, lost 2 ranks in total and 1% usage. So he was doing okay in both. Helena, Black-Robed Witch, the original 100 cost Helena, lost 1% usage in total, but saw herself go down 5 ranks because the places where she is are a lot more competitive. There's a lot of people who rank very closely to each other in usage. And then for King Mont, also had the same deal. 1% loss in usage, 5 places down. Then we have Strategist Oldoa. She's in a less competitive part of the meta, so she was able to lose 2% of her share while only losing 2 ranks. So that's not bad for her. She is still doing quite well. And then Elena, kind of in the opposite position. Elena has been at the back of the pack for a long time now as a relatively stable evasion unit, but also not the best. She lost 2% of her usage and 4 places, and is starting to be in real danger of falling off of these charts. Astrius the Erudite Bolt, who never really had a place in the top 10, but has kind of come and gone with the rise of Joom, lost 2% and 5 places, because he was doing better than Elena, so he was in a more competitive place. But oddly enough, not as competitive as like Mont and Helena the Black-Robed Witch, strangely enough. Stern saw himself lose 3% and 6 ranks. I thought he was going to be doing better because of his deal with Ash and Mont, but really just the volume of new characters is pushing everybody down, and Stern lost 3 ranks to each of these guys. I mean, it makes sense. This is kind of, I would say that 3% loss and 6 ranks is probably the standard rate of decay for older units. So, what we're going to talk about after this point, now we're talking at people who are actually really, really losing some ground. Glaciella, Flagbearer of Reform, the Wind Pierce unit that is still one of the best things going for Wind, unfortunately, lost 4% share in the overall usage and lost 8 ranks. But this was just a little bit better than Laia the Alabaster, who lost 4% as well, but lost 14 ranks because she was in a slightly more competitive place. Again, she was ranked a little bit higher than Glaciella. Glaciella was kind of in the bottom 10, whereas Laia was like hovering around 10. Now they're both in the bottom 10. I mean, the bottom 20, whatever I want to call that. And then for our biggest losers of all, I really thought Sephiroth was going to do better. However, he was so dominant that really all of these new teams have been increasingly pushing the standard dark team out of its prominence. It had been doing really good. A lot of people used it unquestioningly for a long time, but those people are really starting to question if dark is strong enough to continue playing as a mono element. And it's been one of the last mono elements I think ranked really well within these, and it's suddenly starting to fall with Advent Children, and Sephiroth is taking a hit there. He lost 5% usage and 3 ranks. He was in a very, very competitive, like, top 5 area, so he can lose a lot of usage without necessarily losing that many ranks. The kind of the opposite happened. Roth was just a little bit below him and has been falling for a little bit longer. So she lost 9% of her overall share of the usage pie, but also she lost 12 ranks. She has fallen pretty consistently into the bottom 20, where she used to be actually like top 5 to top 10. But one of the biggest hits, I think, in general, that any unit took out of this data pool was vv. vv lost both 10% of his usage and 20 total ranks. If he was number 1 in both, the most he could lose is 40. So this guy has had the biggest fall from grace. I mean, consistently a top 4, top 5 unit that is now consistently ranking at an average of 15th place. He lost basically 10 ranks in both sides, and that's huge. It's even bigger than the losses of Helena the Black Rose, who is, in maybe the more important statistic, our biggest loser. Helena the Black Rose, who was number 1 on both sides in the previous data, lost 13% of her usage and a total of 8 places. Now, she was really running up the lead, and she was very far ahead of other people who were competing with her at the time, in a very similar way that June the Spring Celestial is now on both sides of the data. And because of that, she's going to have to lose a lot to actually end up in the same trouble that Vivi and Sephiroth are. Or at least Vivi and Raph. I think Sephiroth only lost a little bit and has the chance to make a comeback with his partner coming up in the data as well. I think he could be one of the out of the biggest losers that's going to benefit from this. But we see Raph, Vivi, and Helena the Black Rose falling off because they represent basically 2 teams that don't work anymore. You have, those 3 units are a re-raise-centric magic-based team, and we have a lot of strong anti-magic units now. Greatsword, being one of the dominant archetypes, is very good at anti-magic between Cloud and June the Spring Celestial. So a team like that is just falling off. But also looking at Sephiroth, Raph, and Vivi, we see the other dark team here, and this is the proper dark team that is also falling off. So at an intersection of those 2 teams, both of these teams are doing poorly, both of these teams are seeing lower usage, and they're both kind of falling for it. I think another unit that they're probably bringing with them to a certain degree, who is probably on some of these teams as well, but is also kind of falling with them, is Strategist Uldoa. Now, Strategist Uldoa still does do good numbers because I think she's also found a lot of new teams to get on. She's jumped off of the Helena, Vivi, Black Mage Synergy team, and she started jumping on to Ashen teams and mixed teams and ice teams, chaos teams. And I think that's pretty cool for her. Good job. You have successfully adapted to the meta pretty well, Strategist Uldoa, in a way that has kept you in the more respectable numbers. Alright, so with some last minute editing, tell me what you think of this list in terms of how these units are doing in the meta. I have the data to back it up for this, but your experiences might be important here as well. And also, this tells us how units are doing. It doesn't tell us how teams are doing. What teams were you using? What teams have you switched into recently? What teams are you seeing a lot more often? And what teams have you seen disappear? Tell me your guild battle experiences in the comments, and maybe you'll show up in the next comment response video as well. With all of that being said, remember to like and subscribe because those are the free-to-play options here on YouTube. But also, remember there is a link in the description. You can check out other places that I post content. I've been posting more to my podcast on a weekly basis. That's a pretty neat listen if you need something to listen to on the commute in the car and want to get in on kind of the wilder side of modern life. That can be found in that link in the description. You can also find places that you can donate to the channel and do other things to interact with the Jackie Fox Media Empire, including buying my books. I have fiction that I write and that I mention at the end of every one of these videos, and eventually I'm going to do a video explaining some of those and talking a bit more about, what you might want to know before getting into some of these series. But in the meantime, you can just check out the books and find out for yourself why I would like you to read these. But with all that being said, before this frickin' hurricane kicks off again and my dog starts freaking out because she's desperately afraid of thunderstorms, I'm just going to say thank you for watching. And with all that being said, I'll see you in the next one.